cardiovascular problems, hardening of the arteries, calcification in those arteries, higher blood pressure, myocardial damage, cardiac insufficiency, which the heart's not pumping well enough, and heart failure.
Hello, my fellow awakening souls. I hope y'all have been well despite the state of the world. Welcome to part 1 of the non-toxic living series, where in this mini series, I'm going to be showing you guys various different products over the next month or 2 or so that are toxic for us and what are the better alternatives and why they're not good for us. Now, if you are the type of individual who has the thinking that we're all going to pass on anyway, then this may not be the video for you, and that's okay. But if you're open and you're the type of person who believes that health is true wealth and that you want to minimize the amount of toxic things you're taking into your life to decrease your chances of anything happening to you later in life, then this may be the video for you. So we're going to be going over some basic essential items that most of us use in our day-to-day that we probably never even known why it's bad for us, what it can cause, and some of these symptoms you may already be experiencing. So let's go ahead, take a seat over there, and let's talk about it. Before we start talking about some of the products here, I want to say this is not medical advice. You are going to buy these products or not buy these products of your own volition. And if you have any further questions, contact your healthcare provider or your holistic doctor and do your own research. But let's go ahead and talk about these products that we have here. Now, the first product I want to introduce is soap, because that's something many of us use to wash ourselves, to clean our bodies. Now, I will say that I don't have any toxic soap here currently, but I'll insert an image or video somewhere along, right? So when it comes to soap, many of the commercial soaps in our stores that many of us use in our day-to-day lives are toxic, and the fact that they contain chemicals, a whole lot of chemicals that are not natural, not organic, and are not beneficial for our physical, mental, spiritual well-being, right? So, for example, let's do a product like Dove. Many people use Dove because, let's face it, it's more affordable, and some people, maybe you even thought that Dove was actually a better brand than other cheaper dollar store, Dollar Tree brands, but that is not in fact correct, and I had to learn this. So Dove contains things like BHT, and many of the commercial soaps in our stores contain BHT, or they contain parabens, or they contain SLS, or sometimes they contain all three in additional to additional chemicals that we are not familiar with. And the problem with that is that they can cause disruptions to our hormonal system. They can cause cancer. They can cause dryness of skin, so skin irritation, eczema, different issues like that. Dove especially is known for the chemical BHT, which is known for its endocrine disrupting effects. Particularly, it says here is your thyroid function, which is true. So it has effects on your sex hormones, your fertility, and development. And the reason it's so important to be mindful in what we choose is because, for example, some of you may have been using Dove for an exceedingly long period of time, and you may be currently going through any of these symptoms like excessive dry skin, skin irritation. Maybe you have cancer. Maybe you have hormonal issues. This could be linked to the soap that you've been using all these years and never even known. Now, in America, it's more so important for us to be mindful of what we use on our bodies and in our bodies, because things like soap to deodorant to a lot of things are not regulated here like they are in the EU and other countries. So like, for example, BHT in the EU is regulated exceedingly differently than it is here. And a lot of these chemicals are. So the soap I recommend using is maybe like Castile soap, Dr. Bronner's African black soap, making sure it's real African black soap, okay? And you can get these from local markets, especially if you're in Atlanta. You know the markets, they have African black soap, very affordable. I think I paid like $5 for mine before. Dr. Bronner's is a little bit more pricier, but for those of us, or those of you that don't have markets in your area that sell black soap and you're on a budget, maybe Dr. Bronner's may be in your budget rather than paying for black soap online. But the reason you're using these organic natural soaps is because, number one, they're gentler on your skin. So some of these can even help with your eczema, especially African black soap, which I personally use, and is really good for body acne and eczema and so many different things. But It's also all natural ingredients. It's absence of the chemicals that would do us harm or that could potentially do us harm in the future or in the current reality that we're experiencing. Product number 2, Crest. Now, this is the toothpaste that I used to buy. Very cheap, very affordable, but not very mindful. This is the soap I now use when I'm not making my own. But I'm going to do a quick video on that to show you guys how to make your own toothpaste without the bad breath or deteriorating your oral hygiene overall. But anyways, when it comes to toothpaste like this, for example, Crest, Colgate, number 1, it has fluoride, which I know is a very controversial topic and subject, but I suggest doing your own research to come to your own conclusions. But throughout my research and from my understanding, too much fluoride is not good for the body. So I don't use toothpaste that contains fluoride.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
Minor things like skin issues, acne, some skin rashes. Not that that's minor, but that's minor compared to then cardiovascular problems, hardening of the arteries, calcification in those arteries, higher blood pressure, reproductive and fertility issues. There are hormonal imbalances in both men and women. There's neurological issues with learning and ADHD in children. And then we'll be talking about the lower IQ scores in children given fluoride. One of the bigger issues is that science has always said, well, there's not enough in water, there's not enough in toothpaste to actually be at a toxicity level. But remember, that's at a poisoning level. That's when you need to call poison control. Literally, it's like you are dying because you swallowed toothpaste. And believe it or not, it actually says that, seek emergency help if your child swallows fluoridated toothpaste. So believe me, there's a very fine line between fluoride poisoning and fluoride, I would just say, overall toxicity. And the problem with all of these minerals and metals specifically that aren't good for us is the continued exposure, which is never studied. That's always the issue, is that, sure, a little bit of aluminum in the water, a little bit of fluoride in the water, no big deal. But the problem is, if someone doesn't have a great detox capacity for their body, whether it be genetic-wise or other factors going on, then their body begins to accumulate and hold on to these specific metals or toxins.
So in addition to fluoride, it also contains SLS, which is an irritant. But not just that, it also contains titanium dioxide, which is carcinogenic, aka it can cause cancer. Now, the reason we want to opt for more natural brands is, once again, very minimal ingredients, non-toxic chemicals, and it's better for your body. I always recommend using either neem or charcoal, especially if you're using natural toothpaste. Desert Essence uses neem in this brand, as well as a natural organic essential oil, which is perfectly fine in moderation, and this is the brand I recommend. So, as you can see, it is SLS free, fluoride free, gluten free, and it's vegan. So, non-GMO and organic. And as you guys know, I'm always looking for organic options, because even nowadays, as we progress as a society, the wordplay is getting out of control. So I think it's just about doing your best with what you have. As always, you can't know everything all at once. You learn things over time, and as you learn things, you can apply them in your life, or you can choose not to apply them. In my case, I choose to apply the things I learned in my life that will make me better and enhance my overall experience. So from what I know, this is organic. Now, I will say that they are doing wordplay with that word organic, because some stuff can have the word organic because of how it's grown, but it's not actually a non-genetically modified seed. So it's a genetically modified seed, but it may have been grown organically. That's what essentially the non-GMO thing is about, making sure it hasn't been genetically modified, even if it was grown by normal standards. But that would extend the topic for today. But all I'm going to say is you just got to be mindful and, do what you can to minimize the amount of toxic things you're intaking. You have control over what you eat, you have control of what you put on your body, and you have control over what you have inside of your home. Everything else is other outside factors outside of your control, but you minimize the impact that it has on your mental, physical, and spiritual well-being. The next thing we're going to move on to is deodorant. So, when it comes to deodorant, many commercial deodorants contain antiperspirants, which also contain aluminum, which block our sweat ducts. There have also been studies that show that these deodorants are linked to causing cancer. What cancer in particular? Breast cancer. Not just that, they can cause neurological issues, okay? So, it's a no-go for me. The deodorant I'm currently using is Cure, I think it's called. Nevertheless, now the reason I use this deodorant is because it's aluminum free. It is lightweight to me, minimal ingredients, all organic. Now I will say, personally, I want to transition to no body odor, no need for deodorant. But that is a process, okay? A process, but it is doable, it is possible. Now there is this thing going around that people that don't use deodorant as adults have a smell. And while that is true for some, it is not true for all. Most of the time, the reason why we have a body odor, especially on our journey to being holistic or natural, is because of our gut health. But there are some other factors that play a role into that. So I probably will make a more in-depth video on how to do the transition. But for what I'm doing currently, I did use deodorant, but I'm weaning myself off slowly. So that means not packing a lot on, none of that. Just a little bit here, making sure it's minimal, working on my gut health, and then eventually, getting into maybe the lime or the lemons, and slowly but surely. But a lot of the reason why we have certain smells within the body or that comes from the body is because it's linked to your eating habits, it's linked to your gut. Especially, it's just so many things that's linked to the gut. A lot of things that originate in the body really starts inside of our gut. So our gut health is very, very important. But I recommend this brand. And then if not this brand, I'll leave in the description maybe another brand you guys can be open to buying. Yeah. Now, let's move on to the next and final product. Sanitary pads. Now, this one is for my ladies, okay? I did a video on Instagram on this, but let's talk about it. So when it comes to sanitary pads, tampons, whatever, these brands, if you look here, it's somewhere here. There's too much going on. It's too much going on for some pads. What is all the additional chemicals? So I'll sum it up for you. Things like Carefree, other unknown cheap made brands, things like Always, which I used to be an Always girl until I knew better and understood better. And even things like, I think, Play Sport, it's a no-go. It's a no-go. The thing you want to look out for is basically you're sitting in a bunch of chemicals all day. And some of you may have even experienced irritation down there from wearing your pads for a certain period of time, maybe, and it hasn't even been a long time that has passed, but you had some skin irritation down there. Yeah, you were sitting in chemicals for however many hours you had it on. And that goes for your tampons as well. So things like these, like sanitary pads, tampons, things of that nature that contain chemicals that are made with polyester and not organic cotton, not only do they cause skin irritation, but they can disrupt our hormonal system. They disrupt our endocrine system. They throw us off balance altogether. And that's probably why you're having hormonal issues. That's probably why you get skin irritation, is because you're sitting in a bunch of chemicals all day. always carefree. They use things like rayon, they use polyester, they put chlorine in it, and a bunch of other chemicals that I'm not going to list off that are unnecessary. So if you want to know what specific brand I use and why, check out my Instagram. I posted it on the Living Holistically Instagram page. But apart from that, I'll just tell you guys I use, I think it's called Rael. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but that's what I use. And the reason why is because it's 100% organically made and they're transparent, okay? And who doesn't love transparency in this day and age when all of these companies are not very transparent about their process for making these products that we use? So, you know, I recommend getting into books. My first recommendation, always, African Holistic Health. No, you do not have to be from Africa to read this book, to understand that some of these things are not good for us, to learn more about your health, to learn more about, you know, the things that are in these different products that have been going on for a long time now. You don't have to agree with his ideology. I don't agree with certain things, but I do understand that he was a very educated person when it came to health. Now, second recommendation, if you're getting into herbs, working roots. Okay, they talk about some of these things. Like first thing in the book, there's an elderly woman talking about how back in the day, she lives in South Carolina. She's what, 93, I think. There was no such thing as diabetes in the community. It was a myth. It was just something they heard of, but it wasn't something they experienced. You know, this is something that happened over time. Okay, so I'll leave you guys with this. Changing your life is not about taking things to the extreme. It's not about radical changes overnight. It's about Kaizen. Small, beneficial steps over time that lead to a better you, a better quality of life, okay? So slowly but surely, if you are on a budget, instead of picking up these, maybe you pick up Rael. Instead of picking up this, maybe you pick up Cure. Instead of picking up soap that is toxic for you, maybe you get this. Maybe you get African black soap. Maybe you get another brand that's good for you. Like, there's a brand that my husband uses, Dr. Squash, which I think they need to develop some women products because their products are pretty good from what I've seen so far. Instead of picking up Crest, you make your own, or you get some of this. It's small incremental steps, not radical changes. It's just like when you're doing a fast. You don't go from not fasting at all to doing a 30-day fast. You go to doing a 3-day, 7-day, 30-day, over time, okay? So I hope this inspired you to be more mindful about what it is that you're putting in and on your body. If you want to get assistance with understanding some of these chemicals, understand what's in your makeup, what's in your hair products, what's in your food, I suggest once again using the app Yuka. I am not sponsored by them, although I think I should be, because I always recommend them to everybody, even people I meet on the street, because it has been so helpful and life-changing for me and so many other people, okay? If you are wanting to get into a discussion about this, because your voice does matter, and I love talking about these different things and learning new things, join our community, Eternal Growth and Enlightenment Community on Facebook. That is where we get together with like-minded individuals who are interested in not only health, but also wealth and spirituality, okay? But I hope this helps. I'll see you guys next time.